The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we always take it a notch higher through debate here at the Great Debaters Contest. Not only here in Nairobi region, but across the country, all over the 47 counties. I am your host, Chris Buru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. Today, the motion is centered on SDG number 1, no poverty, stating that capitalism is the root cause of global poverty.
Proposing this motion, we have Eastleigh High School.
And opposing the motion, we have Nairobi School.
Will they bring their A game?
Let's wait and see.
Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Standing in front of you is Abdullah Jamal from Eastleigh High School, ready to propose the motion that states, capitalism is the root cause of global poverty. What is capitalism? Capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry is controlled by private owners for their own personal profit, rather than the state. What is poverty? Poverty is the lack of material possession or money. Poverty can also be defined as the extreme state of being poor. The father of capitalism is Adam Smith, because he described it as a system in which an invisible hand will maintain the market without the government's intervention. Some examples of capitalist countries are Japan, Germany, Canada, South Korea, United Kingdom, and Bangladesh, among others. Why do we say capitalism is the root cause of global poverty? 1, if you look at the world for the past few centuries, we see that capital has accumulated by a variety of ways, and variety methods, and variety of scales. Capitalism has gradually become the dominant economic system in the world. Now on to my first point. Capitalism requires a loser for every winner. We see this as a true trickle-down effect. When you have a world of 7.6 billion population, we have half of the people being cornered into man-made poverty. This poverty can be avoided only if we put capitalism aside. Capitalism is just like the survival of the fittest in the jungle, whereby the fittest, who are the wealthy in this case, are the ones who control the economy and not the educated. Therefore, I don't think that capitalism is going to help us in any way, and it's the root cause of global poverty. If I look at the second point, capitalism encourages corruption, economic disparity, individualism, hyper-competitiveness, among others. This website is an objection of the viability of effective capitalist governance with focus of its political economy and socialite effects. Now that we've looked at that, we take an example of our own country, Kenya. In Kenya, we have been a capitalist country. Just like it has been stated, just like I had said, it's the most economic system in the world. Kenya being one, how has it helped us? It has not helped us in any way. So it's high time that we stand our ground and say no to capitalism. I rest my case.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
Faustin Amboko, here from Nairobi School, readily opposing the motion that states capitalism is the root cause of global poverty. Capitalism, as defined by my fellow brethren over here, is the economic system in which the private sectors are given the factors of production, which includes land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. Given these factors, we can also look at root cause. This means that capitalism on its own has made our world poor. And then let's look at poverty. Poverty, as defined by the UN, is living below $1.25. That means that capitalism is trying to make us poor. On to my first point. Capitalism has enabled us to be creative, in that whenever the companies are given this they are given the factors of production, they can increase their wealth in that they are being given the ideas. This is what you're going to do. We are going to be creative. The laws of the countries are giving them the law that's favoring them to continue. They are not being selfish for their own reasons. Capitalism has enabled to be employment. Come on, people. Look at Safaricom, for instance, in Kenya. Kenya is a capitalistic country, true. But look at firms in Kenya, like Safaricom. They have enabled people to be employed. Now, a question is asked, is employment creating poverty? It's not. It's actually trying to eradicate poverty. They are giving back to the society right now. They have built M-Pesa Foundation Academy. No child there pays school fees. Is that poverty? They are giving them education, which is essential for fighting poverty. Is that poverty creating? Capitalism on its own is trying to eradicate poverty. It's not the root cause of poverty. There are other factors that have enabled there to be poverty. Assuming capitalism is one of them, but it's not the root cause. That's what we are trying to say. Capitalism is trying to eradicate poverty. It has enabled people to be creative. Think of something else. Whenever you want to come up with a business idea, being given the capital, the land, and other laws governing you, you'll be enabled to create more wealth, build industries. You will not only be helping yourself, but you'll be helping the nation. Wouldn't you? You'll be enabling the nation to grow, providing employment for everyone. Will cater for their needs. And by that, you'll be creating no poverty, but eradicating it. Wealth of Nation, Book 1, Chapter 5 says that the real price of everything, what everything really costs to the man who wants to acquire this, is through toil and trouble of acquiring it. 3 words for that. Capitalism encourages hard work. Capitalism encourages us to work hard. If you really want something, you will go for it. You will get those factors of production, put them into practice, build your wealth, and then what? Give back to the society. Build schools, social amenities. We need them. Is that creating poverty? It's not. It's actually fighting poverty. So what I don't understand is for our proposers to join us and say that capitalism is not the root factor that causes global poverty. There are other factors. I rest my case.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
Capitalism, capitalism, capitalism. Standing in front of you is Daniel Shirima from Eastleigh High School, proposing the motion that capitalism is the root cause to global poverty. I'm not only proposing to the motion, but I actually believe that capitalization is the main reason for poverty in our country. So let's not talk about stories of long time ago or in the ancient days. Nor should we go too far in a certain land. Let's talk about our country, Kenya. Our country, Kenya, right now, because of capitalization, we have a debt of 4.57 trillion shillings. And do you know what this means for my children? Not only my children, but to my great-grandchildren. That at the time when they will be born, they will have to suffer the consequences of the debt that our country is suffering. And because of capitalization, you want now to stand before me and tell me that in a certain time, our country, we are going to eradicate the gap between the rich and the poor. No, it will never happen. Capitalism. The main agenda, it is to satisfy the stomach of the rich and the private investors. And do you know what this will lead to? First thing, it will lead to starvation. Why? Because I, being the poor person, I don't have money to buy a certain thing, and that will make me starve to death. The second thing, capitalization will lead to waste. Because as he had defined, he said that capitalization, it is owned, and get his point clear, it is owned by private investors. And them, because they have more than enough, they will end up many food going into waste. And another thing, capitalization leads in equality in business. Since I, being the capitalist, I will use any means for me to become rich, be it corruption, be it robbing. It doesn't matter any kind of form that you're going to use, but you will use it in order for you to satisfy yourself. Then, because of capitalism, our country, Kenya, we will continue to hear cases such as the NYS scandal. We remember 800 million shilling was stolen by a capitalist person, and up to date, they are still investigating. So my question is this: where is the money? I don't expect an answer from you. But what I actually know, this will lead to increase in unemployment. Even very recently, 10 billion shilling is lost in NYS. Fund that was supposed to help fellow citizens, our youth, which will lead to crimes, poverty. Because the capitalists, they see themselves as the dictators, and them being the head. What about us, the feet? I rest my case.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
I am Sean Omondi from the Nairobi School, standing before you to strongly oppose the motion, capitalism is the root cause of global poverty. I'd like to take you back to the Cold War. The Economic Organization of Russia, Comecon, failed due to its adaptation of communist policies. And why was this? This is because as they invested in the government, the poor did not get anything in return. They were working all day in farms, producing their cash crops, the government taking them and processing them. But what were the poor getting? Nothing. The hungry were dying. But capitalism is the only system being implemented all over the world that has given an opportunity for the poor to actually make something out of themselves. The intellectual property of the poor does not go to waste. These young entrepreneurs who are unfortunate and born in poor families are able to use the few resources that they have and create a business for themselves. There are also other factors, according to the United Nations, that have led to global poverty, and they include illiteracy, corruption, and poor leadership. You can take an example of Russia. Back when it was communist, as the United Soviet States of Russia, investors did not invest in this country. And why is that? Because of the unfair policies. So the poor could not get employment. This is because these government companies, there's only so much they can do, and only so few people that they can accommodate. Where will the other people who cannot work for them, for their companies go? If the government has monopolized production, where will these other people go and get employment? Where will they? And that is why the poor in Russia were abandoned during that period. And it was only in 2000, when Vladimir Putin came into power, did he say no to this system. And he tried to adapt capitalist policies. All over the world today we have seen countries that are still adapting communism, they had to implement capitalist ideas. Why? In order to encourage investors to come and be able to bring in their capital to this country. And we have seen, according to the United Nations, they have said illiteracy in a country, lack of schools, have led to poverty. And why? This is because the illiterate people that cannot fit in these government schools that we have, because there are only so few, where do they go? They go and beg, they go to the streets, and they die poor. I'd like to tell you that the private sector, the capitalists, have come and developed other schools that you're seeing here today, including this very school we're in, the Aga Khan High School, and allowing other people to access education. I'd like to tell you once again that capitalism is not the root cause of global poverty. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked to make the relation between the NYS scandal that they've mentioned and capitalism, considering that NYS is from the public sector and not the private sector as capitalism is. And the opposers have been asked, isn't it that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer in a capitalist state? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
Capitalism, the survival of the fittest. My name is Mohammed Ali from Eastleigh High School. The first question that I was asked was, how is the NYS incident related to capitalism? First, capitalism encourages one to earn money whichever way it is. They do not care about social amenities nor the public affairs. That is why you find that those who are trusted to manage the finance in the NYS have used the money in the wrong way so that they can get money rather than looking at the social interest. And to my first point, capitalism leads to unemployment. When we practice capitalism, the rule is that we should get the cheapest input and labor that we have to get the highest profit. This means that the people who are working will never have the pay that they want. For example, I go to school, I pay school fees for 12 years up to university, and then when I work, you are paying me poorly just because I do not have the capital to invest in. That means I'm not having an interest in working for you, which will lead to unemployment in the country, as people will not be ready to work at a low labor price. A study done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that 3.9% of the population in the United States are jobless, while 5.8% of the population in Canada are jobless. Now, you can tell me that United States is a developed country. Yes, it is a developed country, but look at the situation inside. It is said that for every one homeless person, there are 5 empty houses in the United States of America. How is that development? Our people are suffering. Just a few that we see in front of the media are benefiting from capitalism. And to my second point, capitalism allows a few people to control the prices. This means that small-scale producers will never have their goods selling at the prices that they wish for. They will be forced to sell their goods at lower prices. This will lead to low standards of living, which will in turn bring about poverty. And to my third point, capitalism does not provide an opportunity for the people who lack competitive skills. There are people who are disadvantaged in the society. They come from poor families that cannot even afford 1 meal a day. And if we tell them that if you do not have money, you cannot go somewhere just because you do not own capital, that means they will forever be poor. Can you imagine now? If everyone remains poor and the rich are getting richer, where are we going to go? Just because 10% of the society is rich doesn't mean that we all are rich. And on to my fourth point, capitalism is like the survival of the fittest in the jungle. If you have the money and the power, you will survive. But if you do not have anything, if you do not have a background, if you do not have the money, then you won't survive because you cannot do anything. Even if you work extra hard, there's nothing you gain just because you do not have money. I rest my case. Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to answer your question.
First and foremost, it's only a fool who argues with facts. I am Augustine from the Nairobi school. First, by the rich becoming richer and the poor becoming poorer, no one is condemned to be poor. You are not condemned to be poor. It is not that you will always be poor. By me becoming richer, I will invest on assets. When I invest on assets, what will happen? I'll give an example of Chris Kirubi. Immediately invested, immediately got richer. He invests in places like 2 Rivers Mall. It creates what? Employment. Is this poverty? Is this poverty? Which world do you live in that capitalism brings about poverty? We don't refuse that capitalism can bring about poverty. But is it the main cause? Is it the root cause? I'll give an example of countries like Nigeria. Poor leadership in that country. They have one of the best oil farms in the world, but they are very poor. If you have poor leadership, what do you expect? Do you expect to be richer? No, you blame capitalism for everything that happens in that place. In this country, corruption, the NYS scandal. When the president goes to the World Bank and gets 4.47 trillion shillings, it's for your own good. It's for your own good. I believe all of you are here because of free education. It is because of this free education that you're here. This by borrowing money, the president is actually trying to make Kenya a better place. Corruption is the one that makes, like what happened in Kenya the last week, the NYS scandal, where 10 billion was stolen. Do you blame capitalism on this? Do you blame capitalism on this? If money was stolen, do you blame capitalism on this? 10 billion was stolen. Is it capitalism that is to blame for this? It is corruption. If you have poor leadership, how do you expect to grow? I'll give examples of countries like the USA. They are completely capitalist and they are very rich. I know some of you may say that they are poor people in that country. That's why we are saying capitalism, yes, it can bring some level of poverty, but it is not the main reason. There are other reasons, like the education system. You cannot create an education system where you all rely on one thing. Jobs that have been created. We need to introduce a system that creates job, not that relies on jobs that have been created. Secondly, I'll go to the point of poor leadership. Even if you embrace capitalism in your country, but your leadership is very poor, you will go nowhere for speaking out loud. Which world do you live in? You cannot just put all the blame on capitalism because you're poor. Come on, it's high time that common sense become common in all of us. Capitalism cannot be one of those factors that makes us very poor. We need to look beyond that. Even if you embrace capitalism, there are countries that have embraced capitalism and are very rich, the likes of the USA. But here in Africa, even if you introduce capitalism, but you have very poor leadership, do you expect to grow? Do you expect to grow? With that, Madam Speaker, I rest my case.
Proposition, you have 1 minute to wrap up your case.
Kenya is a capitalist country, and the government of Kenya is public. But inside the government, there are some capitalists. And one principle of the capitalist is that we have enough money. But isn't it unfair that some people decide for others to be poor? Poverty is everywhere. It has different faces in many different places. But if I am poor, you are poor. If you are poor, I am poor. The root of change lies in our communities. We need to educate, empower, inspire people around the world to join the fight against the cause of poverty. And that is capitalism. Thank you very much.
Opposition, you have 1 minute to close your case.
Since time immemorial, the poor have been marginalized. Way in the past, at the reign of King Louis XVI, the poor was still marginalized. Now, in the modern reigns, the poor are marginalized less. Why is that? Because they are able to invest in their intellectual property, sell their ideas to investors, and become richer, attracting the other poor to join them in investing in intellect. Why is that? As people, can we blame the system for the players of the game? Can we blame the system for the players of the game?
Eastleigh High School, good debaters as well, and I think there is passion that was also exuded from you. Definition of terms by Abdullahi as well. However, for you, Abdullahi, I think in as much as that you're a great speaker, you took a lot of time letting us know and building for us to understand the terms. And so when you started building the case of Kenya, the bell rang. And so the second speaker, Daniel, had to now pick up from where you stopped. You understand? So we could tell that you had submissions to give, but time did not allow. So you wanted to just work on management, because you're a good speaker, well-spoken, so you want to just organize so that at least you don't take too much time on one end. For Mohammed, good role playing. I think I noted that. All the best to both teams.
Nairobi School. Austin, you look like you are very ready for this. You had all your points, you are ready, you went. The only thing is, I wish you would have had more sources as you're giving us the information, but you had all the information that you needed. Sean gave us very good points, talked about illiteracy, talked about corruption, monopolization of industries, which was good, and also brought up the issue of poor governance. And the last one, Augustine, talked of poor leadership again. When it comes to Nairobi School, I felt like there was a lot of repetition. Then I felt like you missed the mark. You had it easier. You would have told us of other issues and really emphasize on that instead of emphasizing on capitalism. Let them emphasize on that. You emphasize on other issues that are leading to poverty.
Our audience, with the intellectual back and forth, this one was a close run. Let's appreciate Eastleigh High School that managed to garner 69%. And Nairobi School that has 70%, making them the winners of our debate today.
Congratulations to both teams. Remember, to our debaters on stage, don't let the win get to your head and the loss to your hearts. We'd like to appreciate all of you because you're all great debaters here at the Great Debaters Contest. We'd like to also appreciate our sponsors, Blaze by Safaricom, Brand Kenya Board. Until next time, I've been your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. Catch you next time.
The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze by Safaricom, the Youth Network.